To formally welcome us all this morning is none other than our third year chairperson, Chair Ophelia Arbonel Binag.
Good morning, everyone. We're done with the first episode of the RESA Public Awareness last September 25. And to those who were able to attend live via Zoom or Facebook or some on replay mode, I hope you were enlightened of the salient features of the RA 9646 as presented by Honorable Pilar Banaag. And in this episode, we will be recapping what has been presented to you on the first episode for the RA 9646, after which we will be addressing your questions that was sent to us. So I hope everyone will stay with us until we'll finish this. We only have an hour, so please bear with us. Again, welcome everyone and good morning.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to remind everyone to stay mute. Kailangan nakamute kayo, and but you could turn on your video so that we could see you. And reminder lang, please place your questions on the Q&A button at I don't know kung saan nakalagay sa inyo yon, but mine is on the upper right side. Ano? So we will accumulate all your questions and unanswered questions. We'll try to tackle your questions, pero ang priority natin ay yung last time's questions. By the way, I'd like to remind everyone that yung questions ay tatakal namin na i-handle ni Chair Ophel was based on population. Kung mas marami yung nagtanong noon, yun na muna ang prioritize namin. Ano po? So, again, reminder, stay na nakamute, and then please show your video, and then please place your questions on the Q&A box. Hindi po dun sa chat box, okay? So, again, on the screen, nakita nyo po yung ating mga rules. And before we start with the recap, we'd like to first show the audiovisual presentation of Engineer Cesar Augusto Tagle. He's a broker appraiser from Baguio. Papakita po natin ang nangyari sa issue regarding colorum. So, Noemi.
Sa baling damag nakabantay latati Bantay Colorum Task Force kadagitiman illegal nga real estate practitioners. Akam tinaso nga grupo may binsa-binsa at report ni Jorton Campana.
Agtultuloy ti panagbantay ti Professional Regulation Commission kadagiti illegal real estate practitioners nang runa dagiti agpapabigbig a brokers, appraisers kan consultants nga awanan itikas kanan a lisensya. Idi pa ito 2009 an aprobaran ti Republic Act 9646 wenno ti Real Estate Service Act amang itududing iti kwalifikasyon ti real estate practice diti pagilian. Mainaig iti daytoy binukal ti Philippine Regulatory Board on Real Estate Service ti Bantay Colorum Task Force tapno agwanawan kadagiti illegal real estate practitioners.
This is to protect the real estate practitioners, the legitimate licensed practitioners, and also the public in real estate transactions. It's all for the protection of the public in the clients, the buyers, na hindi maluloko yung mga bumibili.
Akam ti Bantay Colorum Task Force ang makikoordinar iti lokal gobyerno, NBI, CIDG, SEC, kenda dumapay nga masaknan nga ahensya tapno matiliw makasuwan ken madusa dagiti unlicensed practitioners. Agtultuloy iti kampanya ken panangipakaammo ti BCTF iti publiko kontra kadagiti colorum practitioners tapno maliklikan ti panakaloko dagitoy.
Because without license, that's colorum, That's illegal. We try to inform the public that everybody, the property owners, should deal with licensed practitioners. We would like to the public to be aware of the RESA law concerning real estate practice.
Multa asaan a bumaba iti 100,000 pesos. Ken duwa atawan apan nakibalod ti panusa dagiti mapaneknekan nga ang labsing iti resalo. Jorton Campana para iti Pagilian.
Umapila iti tulong nagiti agtagikwa kadagiti swimming pool sa jay itogon Benguet para iti panakatarma.
Thank you, Noemi, for that, and a special thank you to real estate broker and appraiser Cesar Augusto Tagle for your initiative. Okay, I'd like to turn you over now to Honorable BM Pilar Torres Banaag for her recap of last time's RESA awareness. BM Pilar.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Chair Ophil, Beam Arnie, Beam Pine, and our colleagues of the real estate service profession. Let me give you some briefer or practically the recap of the first episode of our RESA awareness. We talk about Public Act 9646, which is the Real Estate Service Act of the Philippines. And we said that it is the law that regulates the practice of real estate service in our territory. Likewise, the law had took effect on July 30, 2009, and its implementing rules and regulation took effect last August 9, 2010. Under our discussion on the first episode, we said there are real estate professionals as registered with the PRC in accordance with the provisions of the law. And we said we have real estate consultant, real estate appraisers, real estate brokers, and likewise, when we talk about these professionals, they must be duly registered and licensed at PRC, a possessor of valid license, and likewise, the PRC identification card. And these professionals must possess the necessary qualifications, competency, and proficiency to be able to practice the profession. Further, we define the word professional or the term professional practice. And we said that when we talk about professional practice, it pertains to the use of one's knowledge in a particular real estate service, either in real estate brokerage, real estate appraisal, or real estate consultancy. And likewise, when we define the real estate practice or the professional practice, we include those who are teaching subjects or real estate subjects in the field of the real estate or the Bachelor of Science in Real Estate Management. Further, we give also emphasis on the requirements, especially when we talk about advertisements, promotions, whether it is in quad media or any other form. We give him emphasis on the easier or convenience of the public to be able to determine whether that particular person who made advertisements, announcements, or publications are registered professional or authorized under the law, which includes also the accredited salesperson. We call on the emphasis of Section 38 of our law, which requires the vital information that should be reflected in those forms of advertisements. And there is a need to indicate the PRC license or the certificate of registration, the PRC ID with its validity, and likewise the PTR and the date of issuance, the IPO, but we give emphasis also that it should be blank, but there is a need to indicate the official receipt of the professional organization of which our professional had paid its annual dues and the validity thereto. And likewise, we give emphasis on the requirements as far as Section 38, of which the salesperson must indicate proper information together with their broker. With that, we can see that the broker is in supervision of the accredited salesperson. The law defined who are the real estate practitioners as provided in Section 3, Paragraph G. And likewise, we connect that to the exemption as authorized by law. Our mnemonic or acronym for the exemptions will be TRUPAC. And what is TRUPAC? This has connections with any trustees, receivers, assignees in a bankruptcy or insolvency proceeding, in matters of person which are directly performing, and these are the property owners who direct themselves, or they are the one directly performing those services that has been provided by our professionals. And likewise, we refer to public officers, the attorney in fact, and those personnel authorized by the court. And we give emphasis also in matters of violations. Are there consequences? The answer is yes. And there are penalties that are provided by law. Minimum fine of 100,000 pesos and or 2 years imprisonment or both, depending upon the discretion of the court if the violation was committed by a licensed professionals or an accredited salesperson. And if not, then the law provides to double the fine. So the 100,000 will become 200, and the imprisonment will be a minimum of 4 or both, depending upon the discretion of the court. And in our discussion also last meeting, we mentioned about the prohibitions as far as against the practice of the profession, and we also give emphasis as far as those persons who can be subjected to the fine if the violation was committed by the juridical person. So these are the matters that we had discussed last episode, or the first episode. And today, with the moderator, we will now be answering questions that was given to us or sent to our email, and as well as questions that we found in the chat box. BM Paeng?
Okay. Thank you, BM Pilar, for giving clarity to all those issues and concerns. But I'd like to turn you over now to the Honorable Chair to tackle the questions you've given us last first episode. Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, BM Paeng. So let's now start with the questions or the concerns you sent through email. Okay, the first one is the license needed if someone made a living from buying a land with or without development and sell without a broker, at least once or several times in a year. So, sinasabi niya rito, ito yung hanap buhay niya, buying and selling of a land, with or without development. Pwede ba niyang ibenta ito kahit walang licensed broker? Anyway, ginagawa lang naman niya ito once or paminsan-minsan sa isang taon. Allowed ba ito na magbenta siya kahit wala siyang broker? Anyone from the board?
I'd like to answer that one, Chair of giving emphasis on the question made a living from buying and selling. So this is on the business of dealership. By the property, this is property. When we talk about our dealership, dealers not covered under the provisions of the law. However, I would like to advise the one who has
BM Pilar, nag-e-echo. Nag-e-echo.
There is a need for the person to register there is a need for a person registered at the HLURB as a dealer in matters of doing business, and as well as securing all the necessary license. And there are also requirements under the provisions of PD 957 that when we talk about habitually engaged, and even in the provisions of the BIR and the term habitually engaged, if the person has 6 consummated transaction in a year, then you are considered to be habitually engaged in the business. And since you are already habitually engaged in the business of doing real estate buying and selling, therefore there is a need for you to engage now the services of a licensed broker. So, kasi merong dugtong dito at least once or several times in a year. So, practically, it's the business already. That is a business, therefore, you have to engage the services of a licensed broker. Take note, the exemption under Section 28 of our law pertains only that you sell your property directly, at the property that has been involved here refers to a capital asset.
Okay, thank you, Ma'am Pilar. Mayroon pang isang follow-up question for that. Ito, it's like bumibili siya ng lupa and then ibebenta rin niya kaagad kasi 'di ba meron tayong sinasabi na exempted from etong sa mga brokers pag kanya yung property at ibebenta niya. Ngayon, may mga taong gumagawa na bibili sila ng lupa. Kunyari sa kanila yon, pero nag-down lang sila ng konti doon and then ibebenta sa kabila. How do you call that? How do you address that? Tama ba yon?
That is already, Chair, that is already regularly. Kaya nga sabi natin, there is a need for you to consider the requirements under the provisions of certain laws. I've said, that's why you have to look at the frequency. If it is already 6 consummated transactions, therefore that is habitual, that is already engaging into the business of doing, selling, and buying real property. And that is within the definition of PD 957 under dealership. So since it is already a business and it is habitual, therefore, kasi sabi nyo na nga, business, therefore there's a need to engage the services of a licensed broker.
Okay, thank you. So, nalaman natin, bawal yon. Ngayon, we have the second question. What shall the buyer or seller do who experience harassment, manipulation, fraud, and unfair treatment from a broker? And to whom shall they call or go? Ito, buyer siya or a seller. But he experienced harassment, manipulation. Anong klaseng harassment to? Manipulation, fraud, and unfair treatment from a broker. Baka tinakot siya. Well, ano to? Maraming ganito. Dahil sabi nila, broker kami. Tinatakot na nila yung... That's not supposed to be, di ba? Code of Ethics. Madam Pilar, answer it.
Okay. Again, Chair, siguro kailangan natin munang tingnan ito sa dalawang side or perspective. Kasi kung ang broker na sinasabi niya dyan ay kolorum or unlicensed, ay ibang usapan yon because the remedy there of the buyer is to go to NBI and maybe to CIDG to report that particular manipulation, harassment, fraud, or whatever is the experience of that buyer or seller. But if we talk about also the broker is a licensed person, then the victim here can go to PRC to file the necessary administrative case for the sanction of that broker. Of course, that should be fully supported with documents and all the evidences so that the case will progress. And likewise, the seller here, or not the buyer, or in short, the victim, must comply the requirements of filing the administrative case. And together, the buyer or the victim or the seller may also go to the NBI to seek their assistance as well as the CIDG for the filing of whatever appropriate case that is necessary under the circumstances.
Okay. So, ayan, maliwanag po. Nasa batas din po natin na pwede tayong mag-seek ng assistance ng LGU at saka ng NBI para sa ating mga concerns pag hindi po natin kaya. Okay? So, next question.
And that is, Chair, may I add, that is actually the support of the LGU to help PRC and PRBRES on the enforcement of our professional law. That is covered under Section 37 of RA 9646.
Okay. Question number 3. Under RA 9646, in posting of ads by entities other than the broker or salesperson, is it required to post the managing broker's name, license, and date of validity of the license? Under RA 9646, in posting of ads by entities other than the broker or salesperson, is it required to post the managing broker's name, license, and date of validity of the license? RA 9646.
Sino ba sasagot dyan, Chair?
Tuloy mo na.
If you look at it, sabi niya, other than the broker, but the posting was made by a managing broker. So therefore, the term managing broker, which I assume or we assume, is a licensed broker. Because we know that when it comes to the marketing division, and as provided in Section 32, the head of that marketing division or department should be headed by a full-time licensed real estate broker. So that with that particular question, we assume that the managing broker is a licensed broker. So therefore, the answer is still yes. They have to comply also Section 38, I'm sorry, of our law. And not only that, because when we talk about posting of advertisements or making announcements, the person, the salesperson, the broker who will do so should also comply other laws, such as the provision of PD 957 as implemented by its LURB 921. And there is a need for the advertisers to seek a permit advertisement approval from the Department of Human Settlement and Urban Development. And that's why it is proper that all of this information should be reflected in the advertisement so that the public will know that such advertisement is legitimate or is legal. And that's why there is a need also of our professional who assume a managing broker should comply also the other related laws as far as the practice of our profession. And that is required in the Code of Ethics when we talk about our commitment, our duties and responsibilities to the public, including the government.
Okay. Ito pa, for the, it's a relationship between the salesperson and the broker. There are rumors that some salespersons, licensed or not, mischievously or naughtily write the broker's licenses without the broker's permission. Is there a way for a broker to look on the database at the PRC, SEC, or DTI on who used his or her license? O, baliktad na to. Dati-dati, salesperson, si broker kung sino-sinong salesperson kinukuha niya, nakaangkla sa kanya. Ngayon, baliktad na. Ang magko-complain na ngayon, itong si broker na. Kasi hindi niya alam kung sino yung nakakabit sa kanya. O, tama ba ito?
Under Section 32, ang sabi ng batas of RA 9646, there should be at least a broker for every 20 salesperson. Or in other words, there will be a maximum of 20 salesperson per broker. The issue here is just, sabi nga niya, mga rumors, so chismis. But in reality, I have seen one that the salesperson used the license of a broker. Okay? Ang question nitong tinatanong ng ating participant dito, ang sabi niya, is there a way for a broker to look at the database of PRC, SEC, DTI on the use of his or her license? For the information of this broker who asked, wala na ho tayo sa SEC, wala ho tayong record sa DTI. All you have to do is to go to the PRC on the licensed professionals and also on the list of our salesperson. And likewise, being the broker, you are also responsible to do monitoring of the advertisement of your salesperson and even the others who made advertisements as far as selling the property. And you try to check also if the accreditation number that they use is really from PRC or issued by PRC. Because it is possible, which we had experienced and we saw one, there was a salesperson who used the license number of the broker and made misrepresentation that that is her accreditation number. So we are now calling our professionals, especially the brokers who have a maximum of 20 salesperson, to check even advertisements in the media and try to call the attention, because we are free to do so to protect our profession, to call the attention of that person who made representations and likewise who use our respective or your license. And if possible, document, screenshot that advertisement, report it at NBI or CIDG, so that we can apprehend and do entrapment against that particular violator. That's all, Chair.
Okay. Okay na, okay. Okay, so, saan na tayo?
Madam Chair, if I may
Q5?
add.
Yes. Yes.
Responsibilidad po talaga ng broker yon, na dapat alam niya yung ilang salesperson ng under niya. Gaya na sabi ni BM Pilar, isusupervise niya talaga kung pati yung kanilang department, pati yung mga legalities nila. Parang mga anak mo na yan eh. I-guide mo talaga sila at saka babantayan mo at i-guide mo all throughout. That's all, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
BM Chair, BM Payan Chair. May I request that we speak in English because we have audience from outside of this country? In fact, the first one who asked the question, first two questions is from Canada.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but okay, next question is, there are various job titles related to salespersons, namely property consultant, property specialist, property agents, international property endorsers. Can PRBRES and should issue a joint memorandum to all developers and practitioners that the proper designation of agents under a licensed real estate broker is accredited salespersons for uniformity? Yeah, we did this. We always remind the salespersons before they take their oath that their titles must only be accredited salespersons, because they are not consultants. They are not also specialists. They are called accredited salespersons for the salespersons. But if you are a broker, licensed broker. If you are an appraiser, licensed appraiser or an assessor. But if you are a consultant, licensed consultant or real estate consultant. Maybe there will only be specialists or what are those titles? After we're done with the uh, CSPS, Career Progression and Specialization Program. That will be later on,
Yes,
but
Chair.
not now. Okay. So
Chair,
QC
may
number
I add?
6. Okay, okay.
Chair, may I add? Let us connect this to the provision of Section 29 under RA 9646. Because Section 29 said about the prohibition that no person shall be allowed by law to use not only the title broker, appraiser, consultant, but even to use signs, symbols that gave an impression that one is authorized to practice our profession. With the suggestion of the one who asked that we will use accredited salesperson, we would like to inform our colleagues that the board had issued a memorandum, and not only a memorandum, but a guidelines or a resolution pertaining to the use of the professional title.
Resolution.
And we said for the consultant, that should be consultant, real estate consultant. We use the professional title consultant with the prefix and the suffix of reb, and a suffix for the REA for the appraiser, and reb for the brokers. And likewise, we also told them to use or to badge themselves with the proper PIN as we assign it. Now, in matters of salesperson, we cannot just say accredited salesperson because the law give a specific title as far as the salesperson or the accredited salesperson. And we call them real estate salesperson. That is the correct title as far as our law, not accredited salesperson. On the request of a possible joint memorandum, the board had already made an initial talk with the SOD on this matter. Hopefully that will be realized. And in fact, not only with the SOD, we already called the attention of some developers to let their salesperson use the appropriate title, real estate salesperson.
Thank you. Next question. May we have updates on the IPO? And is it sure that we have IPO in 2020? BM Paeng?
Madam Chair, thank you, Madam Chair. For that, I think it was only this week that the board have agreed to extend. So far po kasi, marami pang nag-try na mag-apply. Since we opened up, the board have agreed to open up the application for the IPO. And marami pong nag-try mag-apply, but meron pa silang mga deficiencies and they're still trying to comply with the requirements. So as of October 7, nag-deadline na po tayo. So and then with the agreement of the board, we have extended the filing to, if I may, Madam Chair, December 31. Ano po? Ang extension ng filing ng would-be applicants. So most likely, baka hopefully later kasi po hopefully by next year, if I may, Madam Chair and dear board members. Kasi in-extend po natin ang deadline for their application. That's all, Madam Chair.
To add, in addition, wala pa pong nag-submit. Wala pa pong, no organization submitted its application for the IPO. So we're still waiting. So that's why we extended, because of the so much requirements. Probably, so the PRC extended the acceptance of application for the IPO. Okay, let's go to the next question. BM Arnie, maybe this is for you. When I paid property taxes on the sale of my property at BIR, I noticed that the basis of BIR, which is zonal value, is very high compared to the LGU values. Upon inquiry, it was observed that zonal values were recently approved by BIR and accordingly prepared by BIR committee, which members are not licensed appraisers. Can PRBRES help and recommend to BIR on this concern?
Hello, good morning. So you are referring to the capital gains tax and documentary stamp tax that goes with the taxes collected by BIR. So you are correct that the BIR used the zonal value. Basically, the basis for the BIR collection is the zonal value or the cost consideration on the property, whichever is higher. Now, BIR as a national government agency has its own law governing the valuation of property, which is the zonal value. And the local government units has its own value to be used in collecting real property tax. The problem now is the national government and the local government which collect taxes from real property tax from real property has two sets of value. That's why we are now coming up with a law. It is part of the train law. It is called a valuation reform law of package 3 that will require that will synchronize or harmonize the value of the BIR and the local government units. So ang gagamitin na lang po ng BIR is yung SMV o yung value na pinipare ng local government units. And yes, isa na lang po ang gagamitin ng BIR. And for your information, when the BIR prepared the zonal value, may mga technical members po yan. One of the member is coming from the BIR. There is also a member coming from the LGU, where the property is, when the zone is located. And there are also private appraiser represented in that committee preparing the technical committee preparing the zonal value of the BIR. It just so happened that the process being followed by BIR is not the same process that appraiser used to do. Ito yung income approach, sales approach, capitalization approach. So ang ginagawa ng BIR in coming up with the zonal value is titingnan yung value ng BIR, ano ang value ng assessor, tapos value ng private sector, idadrop yung pinakamababa at i-divide by 2. Then that's the value of the BIR. Yun na nagiging value ng zonal value. So in essence, parang it's not in accordance with the valuation standards that we are espousing na appraisal of property should be done using the 3 approaches, income approach, cost approach, and sales approach. But unfortunately, there is that law and there is that revenue regulation that governs the preparation of the of this zonal value of the BIR. But again, we are now in the process. Natapos na po ito sa lower house. It was passed during the last Congress sa lower house. It is now in the Senate. Ito po yung tinatawag natin valuation reform law. Na there will be only, once it is passed, there will only be one basis for value for national taxes and local government taxes. Ito po yung valuation reform law na pinupus po ng Department of Finance to have a synchronized and uniform valuation for property for taxation purposes only. At magiging benchmark din siya. For example, pwede rin siyang gamitin as a benchmark ng DPWH when they are doing the acquisition of road right-of-way. Pwede rin siyang gamitin ng local government units when they exercise their power of eminent domain. Right now po, nagkakaroon ng problema maraming projects ng national government, ng local government, ang hindi natutuloy o nade-delay because yung value na ginagamit when they buy the property is mababa. So gusto natin at least kung hindi man current yung value ng property is at least 3 years lag because the law that we are espousing is every 3 years there will be a mandatory revisions of the schedule of market value to be used for taxation purposes and to be used by BIR for zonal value purposes. Yun po. So wait for it.
Okay na.
Chair, may
BMRT, very informative. Thank you very much. Very informative
Chair?
yan. So, paano na? Yes, ma'am. May
Chair,
idadagdag
may
po kayo? Yeah.
Yes. Okay, for the enlightenment of the public, ano ba ang basis ng computation ng payment of capital gains tax, doc stamps, as far as the payment of taxes at the BIR? You have to consider there are 3 bases. One is the contract price as found in the deed of sale. Second, the fair market value as reflected in the tax declaration. And the third one is found in the schedule of zonal value at the BIR. Whichever is higher of the 3, that will be the basis for the payment of taxes. On the question, this is on the question pertaining to the creation of committee, because it was observed here by our attendee that the BIR, which is a BIR committee which was tasked to compute or to determine the zonal value or to come out with the schedule of market value, are not licensed appraisers. So, ang tanong nga niya is, can PRC-PRBRES help and recommend to BIR on the issue, sabi niya, on this concern, meaning on our possible help to recommend to the BIR, maybe to the Department of Finance, that the member of the zonal committee, in the BIR's perspective, should be licensed appraisers. And I think that's the board can do. To also call the attention of the BIR and Department of Finance that the person who is authorized by law under RA 9646 to do appraisal of real property values is our licensed appraisers. I think that's the point there, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much for those information. Naku, we only have few more minutes left, so we still have 2, 4, 6, 7 questions. Can you finish that? All right. Question number 8. I have been victimized by colorum or illegal broker seller. How can I immediately know that the broker or salesperson is legitimate?
The performance trend is still at the heart of the BLGF.
Well, Chair, one is we said already that they can visit PRC website to look on the registry for the salesperson, the brokers, or real estate professional. Or at one glance, they can easily identify whether the person is legitimate or not. How? Look at the requirements for the client on the requirement of Section 38. Look at the PRC accreditation number for the salesperson or the license number in the case of a broker. And look at also the PR, the IPO, the OR number, and all the information that is required in Section 38. And that's why we already call the attention. And again, I would like to reiterate in this forum for our professionals who did advertisements already to strictly adhere to the compliance of Section 38, because from then on, we will now be strictly monitoring advertisements online, whether in Twitter, Facebook, Viber, whatever it is. And we will now do appropriate action. So for those who asked the question and had been victimized, we will suggest that you look all of those informations. And if you thought, and if you found out that that person is not compliant with the requirement of Section 38 of RA 9646, please screenshot, report that to the proper authorities, to NBI and CIDG, and likewise also do not buy from that person. Do not patronize the person because there is a possibility that you can only be victimized by those colorum or legal practitioners.
Okay, BM Pilar, follow-up question lang dyan. In case the advertiser is legal, kumbaga, legal practitioner, whatever, is it enough that the nickname of that advertiser be placed? Pwede ba yon?
No, the answer is no, because there is a requirement under Section 38 of our law. So therefore, the full name as registered at PRC should be reflected. Granting that it is a legitimate practitioner and you're using the nickname, then that is not allowed under the law.
What about if the advertiser is not an accredited broker or a salesperson? What shall we do? Sabi, where can we report them? Is there a government office that can immediately address the victims? I mean, that may arrest the colorum or illegal practitioner?
As I have said earlier, Chair, the person here can go to NBI or to the CIDG and submit the documents, file a complaint so that there is a or the entrapment be done so that we can already stop the colorum practitioners or the illegal practitioners, stop victimizing the public.
Okay, kasama na rin dito yun, stop victimizing the public kasi ito, landowner, sabi niya, for several times I have been pestering by the attitude of brokers who keep on asking documents for sale of my land and kept on telling me that they have buyer. Is this a standard practice of brokers? Brokers, please! Nakakahiya naman yan. Pag hindi po kayo ang kinuha na magbenta ng property niya, please. Ethics, please.
Chair.
Okay.
Chair, I could remember there was a complaint filed against a broker,
Yeah,
a licensed broker.
Mga broker humihingi lang doon sa sa owner. Dapat 'yun kung syempre may engagement sila dapat, no, may authority. Tapos dapat 'yun ipa-xerox mo na. Kaya mangyayari yung iba, imbis ay pa-xerox, hihingi na naman ulit dun sa owner. So siguro minsan may mga owner din naiinis naman na bigay na lang siya ng bigay ng xerox, ba't hindi mo ba man lang maipa-xerox yan? Yun lang, Chair.
At saka naman kasi, just in case if you are the seller, you should be ready with all those documents, di ba?
Chair, we would like to remind our professionals, especially the brokers, that we issued a memorandum on requiring an authority to negotiate for sale. When we talk about standard of the practice of our profession, and even during the trainings that we attended, we said before we do selling of properties of a person, we have to ask an authority, and that is in the form of authority to negotiate for sale, or in short, authority to sell. Because without that authority to sell, given by the owner or its attorney in fact, legitimate attorney in fact, we will be making misrepresentation of selling the property of another person. That's why it is just proper that we brokers should ask the authority. Further, we would like to advise the seller here na you might as well, or we recommend, to engage the services of a broker, exclusive broker. We know that in the prevalent practice right now, you will engage the services of 1 or 2 or more or 10 now brokers just to be able to sell the property. But there is still an advantage to give the so-called exclusive authority for sale or to sell your property. for the reason that you will only be talking to the broker. And that broker, based on the authority that you gave to him or to her as exclusive authority, can extend that to a broker by coming out with a so-called extended authority. And that is also in a form of a contract between the seller, the broker, and the other brokers or the co-brokers. So therefore, whatever is the professional fee that you gave to your exclusive broker, the broker now, the partner broker and the exclusive broker will be the one to talk to share on how are they going to share the professional fee. So that all concerns pertaining to the disposition or sale or the promotion of your property can only be discussed between your authorized broker and that of a partner broker, so that you will not be hassled on brokers coming you from time to time or going to you from time to time asking, give me a document, a Xerox copy of the title, tax declaration, authority, and so on and so forth. Again, with emphasis, there should be an authority to negotiate for sale before we sell a property of the owners.
Okay, so clear, very clear. Now, let's go to the last question. Our property was taken by DPWH for a project and we were just paid a small amount for the payment of our land. Is there a way that the payment could be higher? Last na to. Sige na, BM pa ikaw na.
BMR niyan kasi. Ano yan eh.
Oo nga pala, si BMR na sa gobyerno siya.
Chair, I think this is pertaining to expropriation. May I answer that, Chair?
Go ahead, BM Pilar, go ahead.
Okay. When we talk about expropriation proceeding, there is a law that corresponds for that, and that is RA 10572. And when we talk about DPWH, we can say under that law that DPWH is the implementing agency. There are procedures that should be followed as far as the implementing agency. And one is they will tell you about the project of the government and they will offer to buy your property. And of course, they will offer the price in accordance with the provisions of the law as implemented, telling you we offer you whichever is higher of the fair market value or zonal value. We understand that the payment as far as the government being an implementing agency is much lower than the actual fair market value of your property as appraised by a licensed appraiser. So the person here who asked the question was telling us that he is or she is not satisfied with the amount that he or she received from DPWH. Take note that if the owner had accepted the payment of DPWH or any implementing agency at that under Republic Act 10572, therefore that is already an agreement that you agreed on the price offered by the government. So it will also automatically waive your right to file any other adverse claim or even to demand for more. The question that was asked by the person here is there any possibility that the payment could be higher? In the case of the one who asked the question, no more because you had already waived. But for those future property owners who will be affected by the project of the government through an expropriation proceeding, you can, by telling that you are not accepting the offered price and you demand for whatever reasonable price that you think would be the worth of your property. And if there is an agreement between DPWH and this property owner, there is now the so-called second level, and that is negotiated sale. So when we talk about negotiated sale, that is actually an agreement already between the property owner and the implementing agency. But if there is no negotiated sale, then the possibility would be an expropriation proceeding. Wherein in expropriation proceeding, the court or the parties may make representation to the court to engage the services of a licensed appraiser to be appointed as commissioners in the court. Commissioner for the plaintiff, and that is commissioner representing the implementing agency, and commissioner for the respondent or defendant, and that would represent to the property owner, and the commissioner for the court as the other party being the neutral person. So in that way, the commissioners that will be appointed by the court can recommend the possible fair market value for the payment of just compensation. And that could also be an area where the property owner can demand a higher value compared to what is being offered by the government or the implementing agency. So one possible area for the higher payment of just compensation of the property is negotiated sale, or to talk with the implementing agency, I want this price, and if it is acceptable, then that is a possibility that the amount to be paid by your expropriated property will be higher. If not, then an expropriation proceeding would also give a possible increase as to the payment of the expropriated property.
Okay, Madam Chair, if I may, meron isang importanting question dyan before we go to the closing of Sir Arnie. Yung updates on, I think it's update on salesperson ID. Can you
Ito na. Update
Yes,
on salesperson's ID. Really, kami din po nababagabag. Why? Until now, we don't have the IDs. It's not within our we call that, hindi na nasa kwan namin, nasa poder namin. It is with the PRC. But then, when we talk, we called the PRC, yung ano tawag mo dito sa license division. Anong division yung tayong? Yung nagbibigay ng ID.
Division. Accreditation Division and Application Division.
Okay, ACAD. Okay, ACAD.
Registration.
Now, sabi nila, okay, registration. Sabi nila,
yes,
the first,
registration.
That was in 2018. It was not included in the purchase dahil nga card, nag-convert tayo sa PVC. And then, nung nag-convert na tayo sa PVC, wala namang nag-bid. Walang nag-bid. So, until now, walang nag-bid. Pero, I was able to talk with Commissioner Yoli. Sabi niya, tututukan daw niya ito kasi malala na nga. Malala. Besides, for the information of the salespersons, the board is taking into consideration that probably gagawin na naming 2 years ang validity ng IDs para hindi na every year nag-change tayo. Hindi na every year nagre-renew tayo. Okay ba?
Yes, the Chair. Yeah, for that. In fact, we already came out with the guidelines, and this is now in the commission that we have recommended for the 2 years validity of the ID.
Okay, actually, we're just waiting for the release of the resolution. BM Pilar, ano na tayo? Yes, quick lang.
BM Paeng?
No. Ganito. May isang ano lang for our viewers. Marami kasing nagkarga ng questions nila sa chat. Please put all your questions on the Q&A box para mabalikan namin kayo. Next episode, sasagutin po namin ulit yung mga questions ninyo. Pag nasa chat, hindi ho namin makikita na. Ma-erase na yon. Pero pag sa Q&A, makikita pa po namin.
Okay, BM Pilar, saglit lang. Yes. Quick lang.
Yes,
kasi we're about to close.
Yes lang. Yes, I'd like to make an announcement for the information of the public as well as our professionals that PRBRES had created the Facebook group that is PRBRES Official Registry of Real Estate Professionals. For the professionals, there are qualifying questions for you to be accepted as a member of that group. And most of the problems that I encountered in accepting members of that group is they do not know how to answer this question. What is your professional ID number and the validity thereof? ID number is found at the back portion of your PRC ID. That is the serial number. And the validity is in front, right after your registration number. For the public, we would like you to look at the registry for the reason you can see there the registered and duly licensed professional which you may possibly engage their services. That's all, BM Paeng, and thank you.
Okay, thank you, BM Pilar. Again, Honorable Chair, thank you for handling the, for being the moderator, and also BM Pilar and our staff support, Noemi Binag, the bunso of Honorable Chair, and Ana Emerenciana. Okay, before I turn you over to Honorable Arnie for the closing, I'd like to remind everyone that your questions, hindi po masasayang yan, makikita po ng board yan for as long as inilagay nyo sa Q&A box. And also yung mga hindi namin na-handle na questions last meeting at yung hindi po na-tackle ngayon, i-handle po yun natin yan continuously every episode natin. And also, ang priority natin, syempre, yung kung mas maraming nagtanong regarding this issue, yun po ang aming inuuna. And rest assured, gaya ng sabi ni BM Pilar, meron na tayong Facebook para makarating sa amin yung mga inyong concerns so that your concerns can be properly answered. Again, thank you for participating in this broadcast, and we will be continuously doing so. Now, I turn you over for our closing, Honorable Arnold Tan.
Hello, good morning. Before anything else, I would like to thank our webinar participants for a very engaging morning, and we appreciate your interest in this webinar and awareness program. We are doing this awareness program for you to be able to ventilate your concern, and may we request those participants on this webinar session to spread the word. If you have friends that is not aware of this activity being done by RESA, inform them that to register, not only the professional, but also those, if you have some relatives that doing colorum work, let them know and let them participate para ma-win over natin sila and they can be legitimized on the process. Kasi kung the board, the PRC cannot do it alone, we need the support. Again, I would like to emphasize, we need the support of the professional. Kaya nga po, we need, sabi nga nila, we need to police our ranks. We must be vigilant. Tayo po is magtulungan dahil 4 lang kami sa board at konti lang po sa PRC, and we are talking of the whole Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and hindi po namin mamamonitor yan. And through your assistance, through your cooperation, and through your support, doon lang po namin makikita at doon lang po natin mapagtatagumpayan itong mga gusto nating mangyari sa real estate service. Again, we are very overwhelmed by your support, by your enthusiasm and your engagement in this activity, and we hope to see you again in our next episode. Hindi po namin alam kung hanggang kailan o hanggang ilan ang episode namin, but we want it to run as long as we want para lahat po is malaman ano ba ang nilalaman ng RESA. Yun lang po, and again, salamat po sa lahat.
Thank you, Honorable Arnie. Sabi nga niya, awareness is the start, vigilance is the key. Hindi po namin kaya itong 4 ng kailangan namin, kasama namin kayo, magtulungan tayo. And Honorable Chair, meron pa po tayong parting words.
Yung FB, Madam Pilar, pakisabi daw ulit yung FB kung saan nila sabihin yung mga concerns nila, saan nila ilalad.
Okay.
Oo,
Like
pero
the
registered
site?
properly.
Tingnan nyo lang sa Facebook group natin, PRBRES Official Registry of Real Estate Service Professionals. But you have to answer the
Paano pag hindi
qualifying
sila,
question.
paano pag
Hindi
hindi
sila
sila,
pwedeng
ano
sumama
to,
doon, Chair, kung hindi sila real estate professionals as licensed by PRC, hindi sila pwedeng sumali doon. Kung hindi valid ang kanilang ID, hindi rin sila pwedeng i-accept doon. Because what we wanted there as a registered member should be credible. Meaning, for the public, pag nandun ako sa registry natin, sa PRC, sa PRBRES, sa Facebook po natin, these are persons who are already credible, reputable, as far as being registered professionals. And therefore, they had complied that their ID is valid and they had already secured the proper license at PRC. And likewise, before I'll say say goodbye, I'd like to acknowledge Broker Ryan Dadula, who helped us do the advertisement or who made our announcement for this RESA awareness. And thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. Be safe and God bless us all.
Okay, thank
Thank
thank you.
you. Thank you
Chair.
so much. Till next
Okay, thank
episode.
you,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, BM Pilar, BM
Thank you.
Arnie, Noemi,
Yeah, thank
Anna.
you.
And thank you to we're almost 500 today. Thank you so much for joining. See you next broadcast. Stay safe, ingat. And don't worry, we'll discuss all your questions. God bless. God bless us all.
Okay. Okay.